that's just, no spring, teams with, some teams may have 10, 15 guys out. So um, I would think you'd see a lot more. I think games would be a lot harder to predict than they have been before.
Hey, I'm Stephen Willis. Thanks for listening to the POMcast. That was Lane Kiffin in yesterday's press briefing, where he's talking about how this season is kind of a different animal. Everything is much more unpredictable. Like we've been talking about, no spring, no fall camp, and you're seeing some sloppy football, which is turning out to be the great equalizer in the game. You have teams like Georgia Tech, Coastal Carolina, Louisiana, Arkansas State, all of which were 2 touchdown underdogs. So basically, bet at your own risk and do not bet on a new coach because we're seeing, like with Mike Norvell, everybody's making jokes about what's going on with them, but that's the level that we're looking at for a new coach taking over a team. He's trying just as hard as he did in Memphis. So, anyway, I'm Stephen Willis. Thanks for listening. Follow us at Old Positively and The Stephen Willis. Follow us on our Twitch channel at Positively Ole Miss, one word. Join our Facebook group. Lots of activity there over the last couple of days. Thank you very much at Positively Ole Miss. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Positively Ole Miss. Hit the bell. Do notifications for all the sites. You can, follow us on our Discord server. You can join our subreddit. We're on over 10 platforms at the moment, and that's pretty cool. So, we're going to get in today, and we're going to talk about the quarterback competition because the Oxford Echo Chamber is painting it as an inevitability that Matt Corral wins the job. And he very well might. I'm not saying he won't. But that doesn't necessarily jive with the information that Lane Kiffin has. Listen to this.
Going back to Saturday's scrimmage, played some more plays. Guys played about 50 snaps each. Defense had, I think, 4 turnovers on the day. It's kind of a big day, both sides, and a lot of explosive plays on offense, which obviously isn't great defensively, and the amount of turnovers were not good by the offense, specifically the quarterbacks. But it was also the defense making some good plays as well. I don't know that. Would like to, like always. But these guys are pretty unique in their skill set, so I don't know that we will have one.
Okay, that was Lane Kiffin talking about the quarterback situation. There's a couple of nuggets in there that I want you to hear. First of all, the quarterbacks are turning over the ball, and he called them out on purpose, basically. He's talking through the media. It's about decision making. He will not have a quarterback that he can't trust in the game. So this is 2 scrimmages with 4 or 5 turnovers back to back. There's a mock game this weekend. That's more, by the way, I'll get into that in just a little bit. But then in the second part, they're not ready to name a quarterback because they both have different skill sets. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means the offense is going to look different depending on who wins the job. Is it going to look like FAU versus UAB last year in the championship game? Or is it going to look like FAU versus North Texas in 2017? That's what that means. Now, in 2017, Lane Kiffin and the Baylor system, with Jason Driscoll winning the job after 3 games from Daniel Parr, rushed the ball 67% of the time. And that is including tosses that count as passes in the jet sweep game. That was with Devin Singletary and those guys running the ball. They won 10 games. I think Jason Driscoll lost his first when he took over like in game 3 or 4 and won the rest of them. So that's something to keep an eye on. That really is. He is not going to put a quarterback out there that he doesn't trust. Now, the problem with John Rice Plumlee is, can he do it? Can he run the offense the way he sees it happening? But they had next to no pass game in 2017. When I say that, they threw for about 200 yards a game. But they were running. They were a running team. So it's something to keep an eye on moving forward. I'm not saying ignore the Oxford echo chamber. I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's probably more here than you realize. That's all I'm saying on this quarterback battle. And it is far too early to justify naming a starter and letting Florida know who the starter is and having them queue up that FAU UAB game and being completely prepared. Just know that. So, anyway, Positively Ole Miss podcast. We're going to take a break in a couple of minutes or seconds and kind of reset for the second segment of the show, which is probably going to be about the defensive line position and what they can do. So, stick around. We are Positively Ole Miss. So let's take a short break and we will come back in just a second.
Only 10% of us get enough daily exercise.
And that number is dropping.
Nearly 30% of us are overweight or obese.
We spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen.
As a result, we now have a shorter life expectancy than our parents.
But give us the right start in sports, and we'll never stop.
Learn how at active4life.ca.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis from Positively Ole Miss. We're almost done with this break. We'll be back with good information quite soon.
The military has been in every generation of my family, and so has VA. It wasn't easy for my dad after Vietnam, but VA helped him and my mom get the home they'd always wanted. My grandpa's been coming to VA since World War II. They even helped him lay to rest one of his battle buddies from Normandy. And me, I followed in their footsteps and served with pride. And now that I'm out of the military, the GI Bill's helping me with school. Every generation of my family has served, and VA has served us all.
Welcome back, Stephen Willis POMcast. This Tuesday, the 15th of September, we are 11 days away from college football in the SEC. Florida Gators coming into Vaught-Hemingway Stadium, and we can all enjoy that. Now, we really need to prepare ourselves with what we're probably going to see. The sloppiness is even getting into the NFL. missed field goals, missed extra points, blocked kicks. Those guys are professionals. These are amateurs. And these have had no spring practice and no fall camp. So it's going to be sloppy. Look at FSU for a new staff coming into college football this year. You couldn't put your stuff in the spring. You couldn't put your stuff in July. All of a sudden in August, the 20-hour rule hits. There's a limited amount of time you can spend with your kids. It's just worth realizing. It really is. And looking at that Florida State game, they flashed. You could see the Mike Norvell stuff. They did flash. And that first drive was fantastic. They were obviously able to script it, to rehearse it. Stuff that they really needed to do. That's a note to Mike Leach, Lane Kiffin, Elijah Jerinkwitz, and Sam Pittman. Rehearse your opening drive is probably going to be, once you script it and run those plays, it's probably going to be the best of the day. Because you just don't have the reps. A lot of his stuff requires, and when I say his stuff, I mean Lane Kiffin, requires timing. A lot of his stuff requires repetition. So we need to realize what we're in store for this season. We need to understand what this means. And we need to celebrate the high moments because, yes, we have football and it's terrific. And we received 5 votes in the AP poll. We should celebrate that. We should ignore the bad stuff this year. There's no consequences unless you're Jay Hobson at Southern Miss. There's no consequences. The eligibility clock isn't running. There's no money to buy out coaches. I mean, this is a 10-game spring practice we are looking at. And that's fine. Spring practice is about development. It's about taking the next step. It's about looking towards 2021 and being the best version of yourself. The people that take this season and maximize it and don't treat it as business as usual. I know you want to, but don't treat it as business as usual. They're going to be better for it in 2021. If you're doing a major rebuild and starting from scratch, you need to treat this season like a 10-game spring practice and be better for 2021. What does that mean? That means putting out there images that the recruits can see of what you're going to be, what you want. That means having fun. That means going for it. There should be some riverboat gambling this season, and there probably will be. Kick an onside kick or two. Have some fun. There's no consequences this season. Act like it. Act like it. Okay, I've seen a lot of stuff basically where people are questioning the defensive line and what we're going to do. And basically, it is my theory after looking at the 2015 defense, which you can on our YouTube page. It's down there in the playlist where you can see the last time that DJ Durkin and Chris Partridge were together. So this defense is probably going to line up a little bit with what they were doing. So the defense in 2015 was basically an over and under defense. They were 4-3 and 3-4, depending on the opponent. I think they did a 3-man line against Northwestern. They did a 4-man line against BYU or something like that. So basically what that means is you can use the same personnel, line them up a little bit differently, and go, which is kind of in our wheelhouse at the moment. Now, that defense that they have, like I said, has two linchpins, the rush end and the hybrid safety linebacker. Those two are designed to make plays. That's the reason Jacob Springer is here, and that's the reason Sam Williams is here. They were hoping to get them both in and good to go because those two pieces are so important. So, now, we can look at it that they're shallow with depth on the defensive line. This is going to be a situation where they play. I expect basically a Ladarius Cox, Patrick Lucas at nose guard. 3 technique, Quentin Bivens and Ryder Anderson was mentioned in yesterday's podcast. The ends were fine. They're going to put T. Tisdale, which is kind of big for an edge setter, and Sam Williams. But you can see what they're doing. Now, with those guys, you have basically a 2 deep all the way through. Now, behind Tisdale, I need to get clarification of who's there. I think Ryder Anderson is doing double duty. But this defense will be a high-risk, high-reward defense. They're designed to create negative yardage plays and turnovers. That is their purpose. They are not supposed to be a bend but don't break defense. They are designed to match up with the offense that once it gets going and gets built up, is supposed to score 40 or 50 points a game. If you can steal a couple possessions, a sack, a fumble, an interception, you're going to win the game because they're having such trouble stopping the offense. That's the MO of this team, and that is what they want to do. So, look at the defensive line if you want, and claim that we are poor there. Claim that we have issues there. It's not necessarily the case because, like we discussed earlier last week, when it comes to a player that did not make a lot of plays in the previous system, that does not mean they won't make plenty of plays in any system. You know? It's all about fit. The worst decision in college football history is Troy Aikman going to Oklahoma to run the wishbone. Picture that. I'll give you a second. Just because you don't fit in a system does not mean you won't fit in any system. There's a reason Navy and Army runs the wishbone. It's because those are different type players. And that the service academies can get them. Because nobody else is looking at them. That's the reason they're 2 stars and Army's beating the heck out of everybody. They're different type players. They fit what they want to do, and they do it. They've got a plan. They figured out how to do it. And I'll just say this. If anybody is going to come up with a strategy to compete with less talent and everything, God bless the service academies. They should have that strategy on lockdown. So, that's just kind of a look at our defensive line. That's just, we're going to take a break. I'll talk to you after this.
You want to answer that, don't you? I bet it's just killing you seeing the soft glow just inches away. Someone wants to tell you something or ask you something. Oh, come on, answer it already! Just so we're clear, that wasn't my fault. Next time, ignore your inner voice. Don't text and drive. A message from Florida's trusted choice independent insurance agents.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis. I just want you to stick around a little longer. We're going to get back to the podcast right after these messages.
Tonight, nearly 40,000 veterans across the country are homeless. These men and women have pledged to serve our nation, and now we must serve them. Landlords across the country have helped make significant progress in reducing veteran homelessness by making housing available, but there is more that we can do to bring our veterans home. Visit www.va.gov/homeless to see how you can get involved. And if you are a veteran and you are experiencing homelessness, please call 877-4AID-VET. Thank you.
Welcome back. Stephen Willis here with Positively Ole Miss. We're going into our preview segment. We are at the South Carolina game, and basically this is realistically the first chance for a 2-game winning streak for Ole Miss. This is going to be after a bye week. They played Vanderbilt the week before, and they're on the run at A&M next. Which there's an upset potential there because they've almost done it 2 straight years. But Ryan Helinski takes over quarterback. They're replacing their running back. They have 1 returning wide receiver. And their offensive line seems to be intact. They returned 4 out of 5. Defensively, they returned 6. And they return their kicker. Now, people will talk about Will Muschamp being on the hot seat, and I just don't know if there's going to be money to pay the extreme buyouts at high level football, like in the SEC. Like if you were going to buy out Will Muschamp, that's probably, you're looking at $15 million. I just don't know if that money is out there. I just don't know if it's even possible to do that. That's the reason I call this the no consequence season, unless you're Jay Hobson at Southern Miss, which he's the lowest paid coach in Conference USA. So buying him out under Mississippi state law is going to cost you about $1.5 million, $2 million. Now for Southern Mississippi, that could mean something, but it's probably a negotiated buyout, and there's probably some terms that are met, and you might be able to do it. But it basically, that's low G5 football. They're kind of, the rules don't apply just because it's not a ton of money. But you get into the SEC, you got a situation like Gus Malzahn, where if you fire him, you owe $35 million, and you can't pay that at the moment. Not when you're down at 25% or 20%, or in Vandy's case, 0% in fan attendance numbers. So basically, this is about getting the TV money. This is about keeping the other programs afloat. Now, there is a minimum threshold, people don't realize this, of number of sports you can offer and still be FBS or FCS Division 1. If you go below that, you have to drop down to Division 2. Ole Miss is at the minimum. People need to understand that. They have hot takes and everything's going on. There's that rule exists. And until it doesn't, Ole Miss cannot cut a sport. Yeah, just think about that for a second. So you have to finance all those sports. Now, with the TV money, we're in a situation where $45 million comes from TV. And our budgets now are over $100 million. when I was at Ole Miss, way back in 2006 and 2007, our athletic budget was about $30 million. This can be done. That's what people need to realize. We have a history in the recent past of being able to do it. We just made a lot of money very quickly with college sports. But we need to understand that this can be done. Now, with South Carolina, with Mike Bobo, I expect a pass spread offense. They tried the Kurt Roper experience. There's a style that Will Muschamp likes, and you can obviously tell that. And they're going to try and do that. Them losing their running backs is pretty big because they want to play old style football. Old style, pro style football. Beat you 21-17. Look at their game against Georgia last year. That's what they want to do. They want to muddle it up to where your offense is being dictated to by their defense. And hopefully they score enough to get past you. Now, in this age of college football, this is the problem with Will Muschamp and why he was originally going to come into the season on the hot seat. The offenses are kind of dominating football at the moment. The stigma of winning a game 45-42 is over. The inmates are running the asylum for defensive football. And he's kind of been left behind. He would have been a fantastic 90s coach. I'm not saying the game passed him by. I'm saying what he wants to do passed him by. And his kind of swing is hiring Mike Bobo to try and open up the offense. LSU last year changed everything. I mean, it was all gas, no brakes for the whole year. That was pretty cool. Now, they're in a situation, as you will see on Friday, who's left? The only person that's left from that team is pretty much like Ed Orgeron. I'm looking forward to seeing a fist fight between Ed Orgeron and Bo Pelini on the sideline. I will tune in this season for that. That's going to be fun. Let's just hope that Bo Pelini doesn't have a cow. And by that I mean the water system to where you drink out of a cooler and not water bottles, because there's a situation with Ed Orgeron going back to Ole Miss where, man, he yelled at our trainer like viciously for like 30 minutes because he had that instead of water bottles. It was the weirdest thing. It happened right outside my office. I just ended up leaving that day. It was so uncomfortable. So, this is a game, especially in Vaught Hemingway Stadium, I expect Ole Miss to win, which would put them at 3-4-ish, 4-3-ish. At this point of the season, we'll know where we're going to be. Anyway, I'm Stephen Willis. Follow me at the Stephen Willis. Follow the podcast at Old Positively. Subscribe at our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our Twitch channel and join our Facebook group. Until next time, I will see you tomorrow. Hotty toddy.